things I want to talk about is how to book the appraisal effectively and how that feeds into vendor paid advertising. I want you to, when you book your next appraisal, have a couple of things that you shoot for. One of the things that are really important to ask is where the client found out about us. And what I want you to do is to really listen to how big a part digital plays in that. Once again, really dig into how they found out about you, whether it was a referral, what that referrer said about you, and those things are going to give you really good quality bits of information that you can use later when you're talking about yourself, your unique selling proposition, and of course in selling, marketing and closing the deal. The other thing that I think is really, really important is to get a description of the property. Getting a description of the property gives you not just an understanding of what you're walking into, but also gives you an understanding of the types of marketing of similar properties in case studies you can bring in with you. As well, the description of property gives us detail on the personality type. So if someone describes their property really, really quickly, you'd be safe to say that could be a 30-minute appraisal where you've got to go in and just go bang, 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 bang with information. However, if that description of the property is a far more detailed description, then what you might want to do is bring in more information, bring in spreadsheets, bring in data, bringing in a whole heap of information that's going to help them make a more informed decision. And of course, this third thing that I think you need to cover off is their situation and motivation. So really digging deep on why are you considering making a move? Why are we considering a move in the business? In that particular conversation, it's going to give you the context of what the problem is that they're acknowledging. So the fourth thing that we want to look at is decision makers. So the reason why that's important is if you turn up and you're dealing with one of the decision makers, what's going to happen is they'll probably most likely remember just your fees and what you quoted the property to be worth or the leasehold to be worth, and that in itself is simply not enough. So we need to make sure when we're booking the appointment that we're making sure all decision makers are present. So just asking questions like, if it's freehold, who else is on the title? And then following through with, when will you all be together next? If it's someone that is, say, owner of the business, is there anyone else that will be involved in the move with you? And if they say those names, the question more about is when are you all going to be together next is going to really help you land that appointment in the right time slot. The other thing is the reason for the appraisal. I think this is a really important one. So what I often like to ask is, what type of appraisal would you like me to do? If you're thinking of making a move in the next 6 to 12 months, there's a type of appraisal I do. It's really just come in, it's about 15 to 20 minutes, we'll walk through and we'll give you an idea of where the property sits in terms of value and any other information, or a more detailed appraisal. And these are for people that are looking to go to market in the next 3 to 6 months. And that's where we talk about marketing, that's where we're talking about our fee structure, and that's where we're talking about how we're going to roll with the sale and a whole heap of other strategy. And so once again, there are two types of appraisals, and I think you've got to ask the client that. Because if they are leaning towards the marketing, that's when you would go into things like price indicators. So for me, it's not just going in not knowing the information in terms of where they sit with price, rather looking up online, looking on Real Commercial and finding out other properties that have recently leased or sold close to theirs and asking them over the phone how they believe their property compares to it. And that's going to give you a bit of an idea of where they're sitting in terms of price. And the way in which you position it is, so I bring in the right information, can I ask you about one that recently leased around the corner? How do you think yours compares to that? And obviously we can see it's a little bit larger online. I'm seeing right now, I'm on Google Earth and I can actually see it looks like it's a little bit smaller in the rear of the property, but the front looks a bit lighter, you're in a bit better spot. Given the comparison, do you know that property? Yes. Are you guys feeling you're a bit higher or lower, and I'll make sure I bring in the right sales? Getting a bit of a feeling on price, which is what all those top commercial agents are doing. The next point you want to really find out just briefly on the phone is what are the main things that they want you to achieve in that meeting. So once you book that appraisal type, let's say they say, oh no, we're thinking of making a move or moving the business in the next 3 to 6 months. I would then roll into, look, obviously we're going to cover off a couple of main subjects, but what are the main things you'd like to get out of the conversation? I really think that's an important question to ask up front. And that's going to then give you some really good context of what the focus points need to be in that conversation when you go and see them. So in asking what they're wanting to get out of the conversation, if they bring up marketing costs and costs in general, what you want to really respond strongly with is, I'm glad you've actually asked that because we do take our marketing seriously. And what I really want to do is explain how our marketing differentiates in the marketplace. But more importantly, what you're actually doing that is setting up the context that marketing is important to your agency. So you've almost sort of semi-sold it leading into that appraisal. I think that's a really important step in booking that appraisal. The next thing you really want to extract from the appraisal is a controlled diary appointment. So the question earlier of when are you all going to be together next is a really important question to ask to make sure that that appointment is landing in your diary in a time that you do those types of appointments. Quite clearly 80-20 rule. So if you are doing all appointments of an afternoon and that appointment lands in the morning and they can only do the morning, I'm not saying don't do it, but what I am saying is have some direction to try and push it mid to late afternoon and have 2 or 3 shots at it to make sure that your diary is in balance. So you finding out when they're available next and trying to control that appointment into the diary in the time that you want to do it in is a really recommended strategy. And of course, last but not least, when we're actually qualifying them around what they're wanting to get out of the conversation, just probe them a little bit on, whether they've actually sold a property before or leased a property. How was that experience? Gives you the heads up as to whether or not they're thinking of free marketing, whether they're thinking of all-inclusive fee, whether they're prone to paying for marketing, where their headspace is at, which gives you really wonderful context leading into that appraisal. Good luck.